Welcome back to Rockcast. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This is a special edition episode with Nestle. He's a Rock Mobile core team lead, and today we're going to walk through a brand new feature that came out in V19. It's the Outreach Toolbox, and we're going to talk about the origin, the vision, and how it can empower your people to make an impact on others. So, Jon, can you tell us where this idea came from?
Yeah, this idea has been floating around for a long time. So often we work to make tools for ourselves, and when I say ourselves, like staff, to make our lives easier and to empower how we can reach out to other people. But sometimes we forget to make tools that actually are for the people, to empower the people to do more things. And the Bible tells us that we should equip the saints to do these good works. And often I think we haven't really done that from a church management system perspective. We're always operating on the people, but not operating through the people. And I'm so excited that this is like the first feature that is a major step in letting people have a miniature like CRM or a miniature church management system for themselves. And I think what we have is just a beginning. We want to add more to it, but I think it's a strong beginning. And it really empowers that concept of God's people optimization. Often we're tied up with SEO, which is basically to optimize our websites for these bots and these search engines. But our people, if we just like give our people the tools to reach out to other people, like that, in my mind, is so much more efficient than the fruit that's high up on the tree, which is SEO. I'm not saying don't do SEO, but we spend so much time on that and we just ignore our people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so was there a challenge or pain point that you were trying to solve with this feature?
Yeah, it's just really trying to think through like what would a person want in their lives to be pastoral in their lives, to connect with people. And I often think we all have this desire to be someone that we're achieve something or to be someone that we're not quite there yet, right? So we all want to be that guy who reaches out to someone on their birthday. We probably all have someone in our lives who's kind of like that. And you're like, oh, how do they always remember to do that? And I think without a tool, it's very hard to be that intentional person. We always want to be that intentional Christian who's like reaching out. And I think this is a tool that helps keep you accountable to that. At the end of the day, it's still activity you need to do. And, I think we've learned that by even working with a tool. Like it's not like going to do it for you, but it makes it so much easier. And every time I use it, I can honestly say it brings joy to me because it's like, oh, I'm doing the thing I've always wanted to do. And you're praying for the people you always want to remember to pray for. And you'll see as we go through the demo, like when I put those people in and I hit next, I'm like, oh yeah, that person. I know I need to be praying for that person, but it just slides right out of your mind. Yeah. So it becomes that like almost second brain for outreach. Mm-hmm.
That's great. One of the like unofficial ways we describe this is that your staff can't be everywhere, but your congregation already is. How does that idea shape the design that went into it?
Well, honestly, I think when you see a tool like this, it seems easy. And I think, Jay was in there from the very beginning. And I think when you start with a blank sheet of paper, you're kind of like, what's it supposed to do?
Yeah.
And we really wrestled with that, like hard. And it took a lot of prototyping, a lot of like pen and pencil drawings, trying to figure out what should this do. And I think we're on a really great path. I do think all of us have things we want to add to it. But I'd probably say this is actually its version 2.0 of the tool. Like we redesigned it already. Like I think we spent a lot more time than we had planned on this, but I think it was worth it.
For sure.
And I think what we have is pretty cool. And we still have things we want to add to it.
I think we had a good idea of how it was going to work until we used it in practice. And then it was like, oh, wow, there's a lot more to this than we thought.
Yeah.
And that 2.0 upgrade was huge. So
and I think it also shows off. It's the first Rock mobile tool that shows off like a new design system that's super polished and very consistent.
Yes.
So now we have to go back through all of Rock Mobile and apply that, which, won't be too bad.
Yep.
Well, I'm super excited to see it. Jay, can you walk us through what the onboarding process looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a few screenshots here if you're watching at home, but if you're listening, I'll try to describe what I'm walking through as well. So as much as possible, we wanted to make this tool easy and accessible for anybody and everybody to use. And the first way that we're going to do that is through an onboarding experience. And so what you're seeing here is a collection of a few different screens. We just need to ask a couple questions to get you started with, like what's your weekly schedule? What are your reminder preferences? And at the top, we kind of explain like what this is and what it's about. We give you a few steps as to, what you're going to be doing, what touch points are, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But one of the key things that you have to decide is what's your weekly schedule. So the schedule is going to define what days that you want to engage with the Outreach Toolbox. And by default, all days are lit up, but you can turn those off if you want to pull that back to maybe just weekdays or something like that. And the system is pretty smart to tailor all of your reminders and engagement around those days that you select. And you can change this at any point in the future. And then with that, we have the reminder preferences. And so those are going to be just how often you're getting your reminders for your regular touch points, things like prayer, connecting with others. And you can also choose if that's going to be in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening. And then we also have a toggle for special dates. And so these are going to be things like birthdays, anniversaries, or even salvation or baptism reminders. So it's a great way to be reminded of that and celebrate with those individuals when those pop up. So that's the onboarding experience in a nutshell. And then when we get to the end of those couple of screens, it's going to prompt us through adding our contacts. When we get to adding our contacts, it's going to be a really easy process. What we have here on the screen is just an example of like a contact profile. So you can see a few of the data points that we're collecting in this import process. Now you can create your contacts manually by hand, but that's kind of tedious, right? There's a lot of information that you have to enter, birthdays, looking up dates. So one of the cool features that we were able to add in that 2.0 release was the ability to import from your actual contacts. And man, it just makes it so easy. And I think one of the biggest value adds that we saw there was the picture coming through. When you're praying for somebody, or you get that touch point for that person, having that picture of them is just so helpful to you. Connecting with them in that moment. So yeah, the import makes it really easy to go through that. And then through that process, you'll also answer a few extra questions around like your relationship strength, where their salvation status is. Are they saved? Have they been baptized? A few questions like that will help to kind of personalize how you're going to engage with them. And I would say probably the biggest thing that you're going to do in that addition process is setting your cadence. This is the rhythm that you're going to engage with them, whether it's through prayer or connection. And connection just means, I'm sending them a text message or maybe giving them a phone call.
So you can set different rhythms for these actions?
Exactly right.
Okay. Yep. And then before you move on, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
How does a contact in the Outreach Toolbox differ from like a person record in Rock?
That's a great question. Yeah. So we wanted to be intentional to say that these contacts that you're adding are your personal contacts. Technically, yes, the data is in the Rock database, but they're not there for the church to use and to send marketing material to or anything like that. These are your personal contacts, and we really want to respect your privacy as it pertains to that. And you can add as many contacts as you'd like from your contacts, and those are just private and isolated to your toolbox experience, not shared with anybody else.
Yeah, we'd really emphasize that for the church. Like, do not mine that data. I think it's probably fine to take aggregate information, like how many contacts maybe does Ted Decker have, and when was the last touch point, or how many touch points has he done, just to kind of help coach. But really, those actual names in there should be considered off limits from a privacy perspective.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so when we finished our onboarding, we're prompted to add our first contact, and we can go through that as many times as we'd like. It'll continue to just keep looping us through that. So it's really easy to kind of batch enter your first group of contacts. And then when you're finished with that, we will actually land out on the dashboard. And so this is the page that most people will be engaging with when they first come into the Toolbox experience. Typically, you'll have some sort of call to action, maybe on your homepage of your mobile app, that is going to link people here so that they can get back into their outreach experience or whatever you've branded that. And on the dashboard, we actually have a lot of interesting settings and information that you can do here. And I'll just talk through those briefly. At the top, we have a personalized greeting that's going to change day to day, just a note of encouragement. And it also has access to some preference details, so you can update your cadences, your reminders, all of those things that we saw during onboarding. Below that, we have our primary call to action, which is to complete our touch points. And we'll touch on those in just a moment. But again, those are our actions that we have due today. Those would be things, again, like prayer, connecting with others, or in the case of this leftmost screenshot, you can see there's actually some special dates that have passed just recently. So somebody's anniversary or their birthday. And so we can get reminded of those. And that's just another touch point type that we have in the system. Below that, we have our contacts. And so we can very easily jump into those, search our contacts, and find their profile if we're looking for information, or we can always add new ones if we need to. And then below that, I think this is pretty cool. It's your impact and some of your metrics around that. So we want to emphasize doing your touch points on time and being able to complete these with a regular habit, right? That's what we're trying to ultimately build, is like a spiritual habit of praying and connecting with the people that we care about. And then below that, we have our total counts of prayers and connection touch points that we've completed. So over time, I think those numbers are really going to skyrocket, and it's going to be like, wow, this is amazing. And I wouldn't have probably done to the extent that I would have without this tool. So that's all one dashboard block. And then below that, we have an activity block. And so that'll just show some of the recently completed touch points if you want to quickly revisit any of the touch points that you completed. And the nice thing with having those as two blocks is it gives you a little bit of room in between if you want to add any supplemental content. So that could be something like, a message series or maybe upcoming events. And we have a new share command that I'll talk about here in a bit that enables you to really easily share content like that with your contacts that you've added inside of the toolbox.
It's very cool. That's such a nice design. I mean, the light mode, the dark mode. I hope people are watching this so they can get the full experience here.
Yes.
And there's a way you can add like little notes to each contact. So as you go through your touch points, it tells you like, oh, the wife's name is this or their son is this, because you may not want to put all those family members in. And, I just started a new small group last night, and I can't wait to add my the people in my group into there and put their prayer requests there. So as I'm praying for them, I can remember their, maybe son or daughter who's got something that we need to be praying for.
Yep.
So it's just going to be so useful, and it already is. I mean, I've been using it for almost 2 months, and I love it. Like,
yeah, same.
Is there like an ideal number of contacts people should have? Is it like the following
great
tool
question.
Where you want tons of people?
I think the best answer is not sure. Like, I have probably 30. I feel like I could take more. I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, I need more. I could do more. I feel like it's one of those things where I have to figure out and feel. Like, what's your experience been on that, Jay?
Yeah, I've been about 30 to 40, and that seems to be a good number. The cool thing is about the touch point generation is we don't ever want to overwhelm you. So it's pretty strategic in how it generates touch points, looking at all the cadences for all of your contacts. And depending on how many contacts you've added, that's how many touch points that you might be capped out at per day. So in that 30 to 40 mark, you might only be getting 5, 6, 7 touch points. It's very reasonable to get through that queue. If you had missed a day, right? We don't want to just now have like this huge backlog of things to.
And now you tap out because you're like, you're bankrupt, right? But I think that was a really hard thing in the design, is creating that algorithm, because we want to respect your cadence requests, but we also don't want to overwhelm you.
Right.
So, sometimes those things you can't honor all of it, right? Because they're mutually exclusive. So we tried to balance it out for you. And again, if you stop doing it, we're not going to keep ratcheting up more touch points. So
that's good, because I feel like I would miss one and then I feel like really guilty.
Yeah.
And then you just keep piling up. And
yeah.
I think that's something we still need to tune a bit. I think it's working well, but I think when do we send you, a push notice is something that we're very conservative on. We're not trying to overly bug you, but I think we're maybe a little too conservative, and so we might have to tune that a little bit. But what first needs to happen is it needs to get out there to get people using it and get more feedback.
Yep.
So because it does do push notifications to remind you it's time. Like James said, you can pick morning, afternoon, or evening.
Exactly.
But I find that, and this is not a us thing, this is more of an iOS thing, like push notifications, like the notifications sometimes get lost in a long list. I'm always like, hey, I haven't gotten one. I'm like, oh, there it is.
It's buried.
There's a lot of settings too, I think, in iOS to hush things. And if you don't get those quite right, sometimes those push notifications can be quietly not suppressed, but hidden.
Yep.
Okay, so you keep mentioning touch points. Can you tell me more about those and if there's different kinds of them?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've already mentioned a couple different types of touch points. I would say really the core ones are, prayer and connection. We have a third type here displayed on the screen of type pulse, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But Prayer and connect really are the bread and butter of this experience, right? You want to pray for your people regularly, and you want to connect with them, maybe not as regularly, but with some sort of cadence and consistency. So the cool thing with each touch point type is you're going to get a little bit of a different experience inside of the app with what options are available and what you can do. So on a prayer touch point, you can simply say, I've prayed, or you can skip that and it'll just keep it incomplete in your queue, and you can come back to that very easily. With a connection touch point, we actually wired this into all of the contact details that you've added for that contact. So if you've added a phone number, it'll present options to natively text or call them. Makes it really easy to initiate that. If you've added email, obviously an email there. And the cool thing is we can even kind of track that those were initiated through the OS, and it'll auto proceed to the next screen to say, hey, were you able to get in touch with them? We saw that you tried to call. And then you can add a note or even try a different connection method.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yes.
I love that you can do it all from right there.
Yep. Another cool option is to reschedule a connection. So maybe you're planning to meet with Alicia later that week. And so you can just say, I'll reschedule for that day. And then that way I have that reminder ready to go. As soon as I've connected with her, I can add any notes or update history. And with every touch point type, we have that option to add an extra note or some sort of detail. And so in the top right, you'll see an icon of kind of like your history feed with this person. And it's got all of your touch point history and any custom notes that you've added. So it makes it really easy to go back and just remember, I was talking to Alicia. She said something. I don't exactly remember what it was. I know I wrote a note. And so with one tap, you can get to that note really quickly and then use that as part of your connection, conversation, or maybe something you pray about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I use that reschedule too if I just talked to him the day before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just reschedule to the next touch point.
Yep.
And so it's like, I kind of already did it. Like, I don't need to do it again.
Exactly.
Sorry, I see the word relationship pulse on there. What's a pulse?
Yeah, so pulse is kind of a unique touch point. You won't see this one as frequently. I believe there's a setting inside of the job behind the scenes where you can configure how frequently this is happening. But a pulse is essentially just like a relationship checkup. And we just want to make sure that all the information in the system is still accurate for this person. Not so much from the contact details, but more around where's your relationship strength? Hopefully over time, over the course of a couple weeks or even months, as you're communicating with this person, as you're praying for them, you're going to improve that relationship strength. But maybe it goes in the other direction. Maybe they moved away and you still want to stay in touch, but they're not, in that circle of life anymore. And so you can update your relationship strength, or you can update the relationship focus. That would be more around, again, their salvation status. So initially they might have been an invitation to faith, and you're just kind of sending them resources and trying to help them discover who Jesus is. And maybe they've now come to faith and they've been saved. And so now we're getting information about baptism, and we're able to kind of keep that context in mind as we engage, hey, what are their next steps now as a new believer?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a feature too, if you click salvation, it'll ask you, hey, do they need to be baptized? And the church can provide details of how to register them for baptism.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a block setting. You can provide a URL, and so it makes it really easy for your app person to share with that individual, hey, here's some information on baptism, and here's kind of some of your next steps. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very cool. So you were talking about a share tool?
Yes.
Is that next?
So sharing, I think, is going to be a really interesting way that you can bring the outreach experience outside of the toolbox itself. So this is a new command that we've added to Rock Mobile, and it can be used anywhere inside of a Rock Mobile app, not just inside of this toolbox. And what's cool about it is it will pull up any of the contacts that you've added. So let's say you want to share a message series or an event or something like that. As long as you've created and added the command correctly, then this little sheet will pop up. It'll list all of your contacts that you have, and you can either initiate a share with them directly based on the contact information that we have. So again, if Bill has a phone number, we can just text that to him right away. Rock handles that for us. Or we can use the native share sheet and maybe add a caption or share it to a group of individuals. So we wanted to present both of those options to make it really easy to share with your contacts. And we think that's a big part of what this experience is going to be.
Yeah, it's a big part of GPO. God's People Optimization is now the content is right there. It's super easy to share it. There's no excuse not to be sharing. I think the only thing we need to do in the apps as we design them is we need to frame that as, hey, this content, it's not just for you. Who can you share this with? Because I think we're all in the state of we constantly going through life thinking about one thing, ourselves. And so when we're given an app full of content, we're like, what do I want to look at? But if we reframe it, it's like, hey, who could you share this content with? Then it's like, oh, right. And your contact's right there. And it's one click.
Yeah.
I think sharing will dramatically improve.
Yep.
That's very cool. I like that it's already built in. Makes it so easy. And I feel like so much intentionality that went into designing each of these.
And we're looking for feedback. So,
Yes.
people get, it used. By no means is this feature done. We feel like it's just the gateway to more features that will help people become more like pastors and give them the tools that pastors have in Rock to do more.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So what happens if somebody does move away or they kind of fall off? Is there anything in place for that?
Yeah, you can update, the cadence for contact if you are not engaging with them as frequently. You can even put things on pause. So, there might be a time where maybe you want to continue praying for somebody, but you're not really connecting with them anymore, and that's okay. So you can certainly do that. Now, if you yourself are overwhelmed and, you just are not able to keep up with your queue of touch points, like Jon said, we're, pretty conservative about kind of reminding you to stay engaged. We might remind you the next day and then, 3 days and then a week. And, we just kind of incrementally back off on that. But we still want to remind you hey, come back. You've got some touch points. Don't fall behind. Mm-hmm. And again, we're smart about not, the system's smart about not overloading you with touch points. It's not just continuing to add to the pool. So everything that you had on day one is still there and just sitting there in the queue, a week later.
Yeah, I think in the future, maybe we'll keep doing the back off like we are with push notifications, but maybe we need to, at some point, switch over to using SMS or email just to kind of hey, there's things because sometimes the push notifications aren't the most reliable. The technology is, but the getting them inside the notification list, sometimes they get buried. So I'm thinking I might want a text message to be like, hey, it's been 3 days. Where you been?
Yep.
So that might be something we'd add in the future.
Okay, but right now, touch points and those reminders all come as push notifications?
Exactly.
Okay, very
And
cool.
you don't have to. You can turn them off,
Yep.
but I would highly recommend doing it because I feel like until you get that habit, and I don't feel like I've formed the habit. I'm doing fairly well, but I'm not doing as well as I'd like. Mm-hmm. But you know what the interesting thing is? Sometimes whenever I get into this kind of pattern, I'm like, why is it? Is it just I don't feel like doing it anymore? Or is it something I just forgot? And I think it's just that I just forgot because every time I do it again, I'm super happy again.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's been 3 days since I've done this. I miss it.
For sure.
Very cool. So you guys mentioned that 30 to 40 contacts is a sweet middle ground. That makes me think that this tool is meant for deepening relationships rather than reaching tons of new people. Is that right?
I think it's going to depend.
Yeah.
I think some people will put 300 in, and that'll be fine. But they probably won't be praying every day.
Right.
I mean, maybe if you have the time. I do think I'm probably going to be adding more. I think I'll probably hit 60 is probably be a sweet spot. I think in the beginning you're kind of like, oh, who am I supposed to put in this? And then as you go through your day and weeks, you're like, oh, this would make a great Outreach Toolbox contact. I think that was a unpredicted feature of adding from the contact list in the OS is now you're scrolling through all your contacts and you're like, oh,
Sure.
shoot, I forgot that person.
Right.
So that's been really helpful.
One thing that I've done is added some of my pastoral team and the people that are on staff at my church that I don't necessarily have personal relationships with, but that I want to pray for. And so, speaking to that point, you can absolutely add people and have relationship with and that you want to connect with, but you can also just pause that connection piece and just have a prayer piece. So you can really kind of put whoever you want in there. It's really effective.
Yeah, I've done the same thing too. Maybe somebody will have a feature like add the pastor.
Pastors need prayer.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they absolutely do.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like have touched on this, but just to drive it home, a lot of people want to be more intentional with those around them in their lives. So how does this tool help bridge that gap? If you could just sum it up.
I think, like you said, everybody wants to be intentional. They want to be that guy. This was somewhat inspired by a guy in my life. When I was on staff at CCV, there's an administrative assistant who had a husband who was in law enforcement. And as soon as you got on staff, you got on his list. And every wedding anniversary and birthday, he would email you. And I was like, how does he do that? And it turns out it wasn't just a staff. Like he has hundreds of people he does that for. He does it using an Excel spreadsheet, which to me was like, wow, that's how intentional
my
he
goodness.
is. And I'm like, I want to be like Kevin. Like that's so awesome that he does that. But I obviously need more of a tool. I'm not as like dedicated as he is. Yeah. So I think it's just getting a tool, and then the rest is the discipline. And that's, we can't help that. That has to come from within.
And we looked externally a little bit to see, are there other tools like this? And there certainly are, but I don't think any exist with a spiritual lens like this. And that's what just makes this so powerful and effective for me.
Yeah. Most of them were like kind of like for a personal CM for like sales, which is cool. Like a lot of the features are similar, but yeah, which is surprising, right? Like I'm kind of surprised this didn't already exist.
Yeah, me too.
So
that's cool. I love how you framed that with a spiritual lens. That's great. So if a church wants to get started with the Outreach Toolbox, how do they do that?
Yeah, great question. So the cool thing is everything is available and ready to go today. So as long as you're on Rock version 19 and you have Rock Mobile version 19, those versions are now in sync if you weren't aware, then inside of your Rock Mobile app, there's now a new collection of Outreach Toolbox blocks, and you can just add those to some new pages. And the main thing you'll need to figure out is how you want to push people into the experience and get them into onboarding. We intentionally kept the experience kind of unbranded, so you can name it whatever you'd like. You can speak about it however you'd like. I think we've seen through experience that daily experience type, spiritual habit forming tools are really effective when they have a name. Something you can speak about from the stage, or like a life group leader can help explain to their life group members. I think having a brand around it, maybe even some graphics, like that's cool, and I think that will be helpful. Some sort of call to action on your homepage for somebody who's not engaged to say, hey, here's what this is. Maybe it's a little bit of a bigger call out and more graphical. And then once they're in, they've been through onboarding, they've added some contacts. Maybe that's a little bit more subdued to just say, hey, come back in, make sure you're engaging with your people. I think a lot of people will probably just be tapping that push notification, which just is going to jump them right into that. But definitely make sure it's still accessible from other areas of the app too.
Yeah, at one point you were kind of internally calling it Beacon, which to give, again, an example of what a name would be. It's just easier to say from stage, like, get in Beacon. New people might be a little bit confused, but calling it Outreach Toolbox, it's kind of a lot of words. Yeah. And doesn't really cast the same vision of like something else. But we didn't want to pick it because we knew if we picked it, like everybody's going to have a different idea, and that's great. Like we have...
Yeah, you give them the freedom to do that.
But it's like right there. But I think this is something I kind of see, especially lately, is when we're working with churches and we say they present their need. It's like, oh, you know what you should do? You should just use this tool in the mobile app. And they're like, yeah, but we use a different mobile app platform. And it's just like, okay, great, but and then they're wanting us to go add other features to like web or something else when this is actually like legit the right thing in the right place. So I think it's just like Rock Mobile, it almost isn't like a separate thing. It almost has to be like, if you want to be on Rock, like you really should be on Rock. And when you use a different platform, they're not. Even if they can do some things that pull some data out of Rock, they can't pull it all. And I think it's just sometimes frustrating because like we have all of this, like just use it.
Right, exactly.
Do you have any other tips for how pastors and staff members can help their congregation implement a tool like this?
Definitely got to cast a vision. I mean, I think every church I've been in casts a vision for reaching people around us. But what we don't do is we just, at that point, we say, okay, now go do the thing, and we don't give them a tool. It's like, go plow the field, but I'm not going to give you a plow. Like, here's a shovel, and I think now we can actually give them a tool.
Yeah, and I think just looking at some of those interactions and the data behind the scenes to see, are people using this? Are contacts being added? Again, not digging into that person or, contact data, but just seeing, hey, is this effective? Do we need to be pushing on this more and speaking to it more? I think that'll be important.
So where can a church go to learn more?
Yeah, so I did a video recently. I think it's on a blog post, just kind of walking through the whole experience and what it looks like so you can get a better idea visually of how it all fits together. We also have some pretty robust documentation on the Rock Mobile documentation page. So you can go there to check all that out. It has all the technical details regarding the blocks and how they all get stitched together. So that should give you everything you need to get started.
Great. In other news, the Rock Mobile team hit 0 reported issues this week. That's
Let's
a
go.
big win.
That's huge. That's really
What a
huge.
milestone.
I don't think people realize how hard that is because it's like always a moving target, and how few open source systems have that few issues. Like usually when you go to them, it's like I can think of a Microsoft one that has thousands of open issues right now, and they have a much bigger team and I'm assuming a much bigger budget.
Yeah.
So
the team worked really hard this year to not only keep building and delivering on things like this, but also to whittle those down, work through those, and really just show a new renewed responsiveness to the community that like this is a serious platform, and we're making sure that it's as good as it can be.
Another reason to be on Rock Mobile.
Exactly.
Well, that's great.
Yep.
Before we wrap up, I have one more question, and that's what else is the mobile team working on?
Oh, wow. There's been a lot happening this year. We're actually wrapping up our new connection block overhaul. I teased that a little bit in Rocket Chat, so if you're not in the mobile channel and you're interested, definitely follow along there. We've basically overhauled the entire connection experience to follow along with what V19, V20 Core has done. Hopefully you guys have gotten to play with that because it's such a nice experience with all the filters and capabilities there. And so Rock Mobile is following suit. It's taking all of the design learnings that we've had from the Outreach Toolbox, so it's going to look absolutely beautiful out of the gate. But functionally, it's got basically one-to-one parity on everything that you can do on the web. So,
yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah. So that's been a huge initiative. We're in the final polishing stages of that.
That's version 20, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So that'll be upcoming. And then we're in the preliminary early stages of Helix and bringing that into mobile. So I know we've talked about that off and on for a little while, and it is finally happening. So I'll have more to share on that when it comes, but we're really excited about bringing that capability to mobile and all the new things that that's going to enable.
Yeah, that's great.
And the hard thing about that feature is definitely it's going to be harder code to write because it's dynamic, but it's more in the planning because you can't break it. You can't change your mind like 2 versions from now and say, oh, that's not the way we should have been done. It should have been done this way because now you broke everybody's code. I don't think people realize how hard Rock is to keep, because the extensibility is so difficult because you can't change things without, we can't make breaking changes. So there's a lot of planning that has to go into place. And again, if you're only solving it for one organization, like when I worked for Honeywell, we only had to solve it for one organization.
Right.
You could make rapid changes. You don't have to say, well, it's one production environment. I know it changes. I need to go make. I'll just go make them. We don't get that. It's almost like you put something in a time capsule and you're like, okay, I can't touch it now.
Yeah, it's a fun challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you guys want to add?
I just think, as we build these tools, it's great, but it's only great if they get used. And so at a certain point, our work is done and your work is started. And what encourages us the most is not finishing a tool, it's watching it get used. And so I know that takes time, and I know it takes a lot of, adds maybe some stress because you have a lot of other things to do. But I hope you see the vision behind this, and you have to look at the impact. It's the only thing that drives us. We talk a lot inside our organization about motivators, and of course we all need to get paid, but that's never going to be the thing that keeps you going. Mission has to keep you going. And so as you look at these tools, like you have to let the mission like carry you. Otherwise it's too easy just to go, you know what I don't need today is another thing to do. But I want to tell you, like projects like this, or even the implementation of connections is probably one of the biggest investments you can make if you think about it in terms of ministry. I know you have a lot of other things to do, but maybe some of those need to be said no so that you can get these things across the finish line. So just the encouragement part is like our job is done. Your job is just started.
That's good.
Yeah, we're really excited to see how churches will roll it out and, the feedback that we'll get from it. So thanks, Jay, for joining us and walking us through the Outreach Toolbox. Very cool to see all of that. We'll drop all those resources in the show notes for you guys, and we'll see you in the Rockcast Rocket Chat channel. Thanks for joining us.